Let's look at production in the short run with an example. All right, so we're going to use lumberjacks. And so the capital good of this is one saw. Now, again, this is a fixed input because you cannot change the size of a saw unless you bought a new saw. But again, that would be a new fixed input because you can't change it. All right. So labor can be added to this to increase production potentially. So here we have a picture of the lumberjacks going back and forth to saw the log. And we have the number of lumberjacks, and then we have the total number of trees that they can do. This is the total product. So one labor does 4 trees, 2 total labor has 10 trees, 3 has 12 trees, right? So that is the total amount of trees they can do, the total product, given the amount of labor we have. Under that, we have MP. Now, MP is called the marginal product, the additional output of one more worker. Because you hired another person, how much does the total output change? So going from 1 labor to 2, we went from 4 trees to 10. So because we hired the second person, we got an additional 6 trees, right? Because we hired the third person, we went from 10 to 12, so it's an additional 2 trees, okay? So by adding these people, we are gaining more total product, all right? So when you hired the first person, they did 4, second 6, third they added on 2, fourth person added on an additional 1. But when you hired that fifth person, nothing happened, right? They just didn't do anything. They just stood there. Okay, so that's what the marginal product is all about. Is just trying to find out how much does the total product change because you hired somebody. Now, as you can see, because we went 4, 6, 2, 1, and 0, we are seeing this diminishing marginal product going on. We do have this idea of the law of diminishing marginal utility, a general rule that as a firm hires more labor, eventually the amount of additional output produced declines. So again, one person was working the saw, and he could do 4 trees by himself. The 2 guys that work together, right, they have some specialization and they can work together. They can now do an extra 6 to where a total is 10. The third guy, if you wanted to hire him, he could be helping out with smaller tasks such as oiling the saw. So that makes it easier for the other 2 labor to produce more. So we saw an extra 2 trees because of the help that the third guy was bringing. The fourth guy could help out bringing waters, right? And that's going to help out move around the labor a little bit better to where now we can produce an extra tree. And then the fifth guy, there's really nothing else for him to do, right? Like the guys are getting water. We only have the 1 saw. It's being oiled. There's not much left to happen here. So that guy's just going to be standing there. We're not really having anything for him to do. So that's why we have the law of diminishing marginal productivity, is because as we add more labor, there's less that they can do. So in terms of additional product, there's nothing that they can bring extra to the table. All right. So the main thing about the law of diminishing marginal productivity is that the total product is increasing when you hire more labor. So total product, TP, is increasing because the quantity of labor is increasing. However, the marginal product is decreasing. So what you can say is the total product is increasing at a decreasing rate. Okay? So that is the law of marginal productivity. You are making more trees happen, but the rate at which it's increasing is decreasing because you go 6, 2, 1, and 0, right? Let's do another example here where we have our labors and our total product. So let's find the marginal product. When you had 0 labor, 0 total product. When you had 1 labor, now you have 20. So because you hired that person, you got an additional 20. You hire the next person, you go from 20 to 50. So he gave you an extra 30 products. Then you go 50 to 90. That's an extra 40. Then you go 90 to 95. That's an extra 5. And then you go 95 to 96. That's an additional 1. All right. So that's how you find marginal product. You're just subtracting the total product. That's all you're doing, just finding the additional. Okay? If I did give you the marginal product, but you don't have the total, so if you're working backwards, you would just add the marginal product, right? So for example, if you didn't know what this number was, and you know that the marginal product was 1, then you'll be like, okay, we had 95, and we got an additional 1, so we made it extra, so 95, 96. So you can just add the marginal product to find the total. Right? Now, the key thing about the production in the short run is that we will see the total product is increasing. So here, you can see total product is increasing, but it starts to level off. That's the law of diminishing marginal productivity. And we can see it right here. This graph is showing us the marginal product and how it goes here and then starts to diminish. Okay? So when the marginal product is positive, it's very important to note this is where the total product is increasing. If these are positive numbers, this means that your total product is increasing, but at a decreasing rate. Okay. When the marginal product starts to decrease, like after the second worker, this is when the law of diminishing marginal product starts. Okay. So the way I like to think about it, when does this start? When does the diminishing marginal productivity starts? It starts whenever it go boom, boom, down, right? So we went 4, 6, 2, right? So whenever you start to go down in terms of the marginal product, that's where it starts. For example, on this one here, we go 20, 30, 40, 5. So whenever we see that decrease there, that's where the diminishing starts. A lot of students are confused when they see that the total product starts to be negative, right? When the total product goes negative, that's not where the diminishing marginal product starts. The diminishing marginal product starts whenever the marginal product gets smaller. So 20, 30, 40, 5. So in this case, it starts with the fourth worker. Back on this example here, when does the diminishing marginal product start? It starts when you hire the third worker, okay, because you go 4, 6, 2. When you hire the third worker, your marginal product decreased. So that's where that starts, okay? A key thing to remember as a business owner is that when you are increasing the marginal product, this is actually better for you because now it is going to be decreasing the average cost of that labor. For example, if you paid him $50, but he's producing you a lot of trees, then it's kind of like more beneficial to you because they're more productive. It lowers your average cost of hiring him because he's producing so much. Now, if you start to see a decrease in the marginal product, all of a sudden they're less productive. It's going to cost you more on average. So the key thing to remember here, if you are more efficient, that means you're making more product and you are going to be lowering your average cost. Okay? In the next video, we'll talk about the cost in the short run a little bit more in depth.